The big chat today, Aditya Ghosh, President and whole-time Director at IndiGo Aviation and also the winner at the Economic Times Awards for Corporate Excellence for the Emerging Company of the Year. Aditya, hi, good morning. Emerging Company doesn't quite sound right, does it?
Well, I think after, as I was saying the other day, after 10 years, emerging companies sound like a very long and painful birth into the industry. But having said that, another way of looking at it is that it's just probably a subtle message to us from the jury as to how much potential there still is, both for the industry and especially for IndiGo.
Absolutely, but nonetheless, congratulations on the great work that you've been doing. You know, something which is extremely visible when all of us travel to the airports.
First port of choice.
IndiGo lines are like just endless.
You know, this is good news and this is bad news. This is good news.
Which is a good problem to have.
It's a good problem, I'm sure, for you, yes. Yeah, Nikuji was saying.
No, this is like he said, it's a good problem actually to have. So last time when I took IndiGo Airline, I just managed to go on the gate because the line was so long. So it's a good problem for them, but it's a bad problem for me as a passenger.
But yeah, it talks miles about IndiGo Aviation. But Aditya, nonetheless, congratulations on receiving the Emerging Company of the Year award. You know, like you said, as you strive to accomplish your vision, how is it that you're working to keep India's largest domestic airline the most preferred for all stakeholders?
Oh, yeah, great question. I think that's probably what we focus on most. And, you know, it's whether it's our customers to start with, or for that matter, our employees, or for that matter, you know, the people who have invested in us. We've got to keep this triangle happy on all sides. And that starts from actually running a focused business, putting out there the lowest cost structure, the lowest cost of production, because that's what leads to us having the ability to not only offer lower fares and have more people travel, but constantly invest into our future as well, whether it is new technology with newer airplanes or spare parts, or and that comes out as an evidence in just a very high reliable product that we've put out there. Even after 10 years into the business, more than 10 years now, our operational reliability stays at north of 99.9%. Which is no mean feat, and I think it's probably the very best in the Airbus world. And that then translates to a lean operation, which is focused on the basics, not do anything crazy, not try and overstretch ourselves, but grow consistently, and of course grow profitably.
Aditya, do you think the springtime for the Indian aviation sector is over? And the reason why I say that is because A, crude prices have gone higher, B, competition and new capacity addition, which was missing from last couple of years, that's going to come back because demand is making a comeback. So our last couple of years were excellent, no competition, low fuel prices. That turf is changing.
Nothing new from what happened a few years ago as well. But what has changed is that market is growing at 20-21%, and yet, you know, despite new aircraft capacity coming in from all of us, demand continues to outstrip supply, which is a good spot for us to be in. There will be, you know, this is a cyclical business. There will be times when fuel price will go up. There will be times when the dollar will go the other way. But I think when you're trying to build a business for the long term, as long as you're focusing on the overall cost of production, because all this then finally goes into the cost per ASK, and as long as we can keep delivering a lower cost per ASK, we come out ahead. As far as the industry is concerned, with new capacity coming in, it only evidences what I have been saying for now 10 years. India is one of the most underpenetrated aircraft markets in the world. There is a massive potential. All the Indian aviation industry put together are less number of airplanes than Ryanair, one single airline from a much smaller country, and therefore there's a long runway ahead of us.
Aditya, good morning. Neeraj here, and congratulations from my end as well. You know, the flip side is that that the pie seems to be going up, right? I mean, we may talk about competition being there, but you guys are retaining your market share. At the same time, the growth is coming in at 15, 20, 22 odd percent. The PLFs are high, as I just saw. I think the data that came out last evening showed that the PLFs for most of the airlines were northwards of 90%. Do you think this will stay or improve over the course of the next 6 to 12 months, or is it difficult to predict right now?
Very difficult to predict, and also, look, whether it is market share or passenger load factor, they in isolation don't mean very much actually. You could have a very low fare environment and passenger load factors could go up. Now, at the same time, if other costs are creeping up and the fares are not sustaining, then there's a problem. Having said that, if you're able to somehow keep your cost structure low and therefore deliver a lower fare, then that can lead to great profitable growth over a period of time. Now, profitability will come and go up and down, but it doesn't take you away from the general trend of profitable growth. And yes, we have been able to maintain and grow our market share, but that's a consequence not of chasing market share, but as a consequence of getting in capacity, growing profitably.
The airline sector is growing like you flagged off. It is growing in early 20s, and that's a very encouraging number. That just tells you that Indians are traveling more. But now the base is also going to be bigger.
That's right.
On a high base of what we are right now, do you think the growth rate will peak out? Because if you're growing at 20%, which means every 3.5 years, the air traffic actually will double.
Well, look, it's a difficult one for me to predict, but I kind of look at it in two different ways. One, overall over the long term, 10-15 years, all the data that is out there shows that the long term growth stays in that 9, 10, 12% rate. Will it be 21% for 20 years? Unlikely. Now, having said that, you talked about how every 3 years the market kind of doubles. Look at the past, and the last 10 years is actually not a long period of time. When we took to the skies, the entire civil aviation industry in India was, if I'm not mistaken, something like 18 million passengers a year. Today, this year, we will carry alone close to 50 million customers ourselves. And the overall industry would be, I think, somewhere about the 90 to 100 million customers. And in 10 years, it has gone from 18 million customers to 90 million customers. That's 5x. So I don't know about what the next 10 years will show, but certainly, this country and the potential of this country has surprised us all, and in a good way.
So let's talk about the industry per se a little more, Aditya. We've had a few announcements on boosting regional connectivity from the aviation minister himself, but haven't quite seen a plan of action from airlines. What's your assessment of the same among other such announcements which we keep hearing?
Yeah, well, look, obviously the heart is in the right place, and there is an effort to try and connect different regions and smaller cities. Now, but when you peel that onion a little bit more, there are several other layers to this story. Number one, airlines like IndiGo, we already actually connect a large number of smaller cities, right? They may not be landing into a dirt strip, but think about it this way. If we can take a narrow body jet like a A320 and do several flights a day into a smaller city, we can bring in lower fares because of our lower cost structure compared to a turboprop operation, and we are able to grow and stimulate the market. Just last, I think, 14-15 months, we entered Udaipur, we entered Dehradun, we entered Varanasi with multiple flights a day from day one, and suddenly the market has expanded. We're going to continue to do more. Actually, historically as well, Our first flight was not from Delhi to Bombay. Our first flight was from Delhi to Guwahati and going on to Imphal, and that trend has continued. So we actually genuinely believe in the regions and connecting the regions of India. Our preference is to do it with a more efficient, larger capacity airplane like a 320. The couple of other issues that we are grappling with and which we've taken to the government is this whole levy of this RCS fee, and there is a bit of a battle and a discussion going on around that, because at a philosophical level, we believe that it's not a good idea to burden some customers for the sake of others. So if you actually put a fee on or a levy on the non-RCS flights to fund the RCS flights, somewhere along the way this will not be sustainable. I think what's required is to invest more into the infrastructure of smaller airports, to have longer runways, to have reasonable functional terminal buildings. It doesn't have to be fancy, so that we can come in and add more flights into those regions. So I don't see, in reality, frankly, I don't see a paradox between what the policy is and what is actually happening in reality. But to force market behavior in a certain way through policy always has a lot of hairy edges to it.
Aditya, what's the big determinant of 2017? Would it be GST? I mean, could it be a game changer or not quite? Will the steady growth continue irrespective?
Look, I think the growth, frankly, in the Indian aviation industry will be pretty much symbiotic with what happens in the GDP. That's the way it has always been, and I don't expect that to change. Now, GST, of course, creates certain complications for us, both procedurally for the airline industry, and may lead to a higher tax burden unless, of course, the rates are corrected. The rates are still not out. For instance, let's talk about complexity for a change. I'll give you one example. Just the individual registrations that we have to do in multiple states and in all the states that we operate in leads to a whole bunch of complexity around paperwork and paying taxes and taking credit. And we ourselves operate in 36 cities within the country. Some other airlines operate in more. So if maybe there is a pooling of credit mechanism that is allowed, and a few states determine, of course some states have to give up some of that control, then it will become far more efficient and easier for the airlines. As far as service tax is concerned, I think for our recommendation is that for economy tickets, that rate in GST be kept at about 5%, and maybe for business class at about 8%, because this lower service tax regime has helped grow the industry, because any cost that gets attached to air travel ultimately, directly or indirectly, gets passed on to the consumer, and that can have an impact on how the industry grows. So I think GST is something that is taking a lot of focus from the Ministry of Finance, from the Ministry of Civil Aviation, from the industry. I think there needs to be more work around that at the moment.
Right, Aditya, the mandate is that we'll only stick to industry-specific questions and don't ask anything on IndiGo, but the mandate also allows me to ask you some personal questions. And my personal question is that if you're stuck at an airport, no IndiGo, which airline will you hop on?
So I'll probably take a cab, an Ola and Uber to the station and take a Rajdhani. It reminds me of.
Oh my God!
IndiGo is endorsing
That's
Uber
the
and Ola.
promo-able
No,
statement.
IndiGo is endorsing Ola and Uber.
That's interesting. No, but if I can throw in just one quick thing, IndiGo doesn't fly to all major international destinations as of now. When you fly international, what's your preferred airline?
Like any other customer, and that goes back to the basics of this business. You actually look at a schedule, you look at the fare, you look at the safety record, and the rest of it is a good to have. It makes nice after dinner conversation. But I used to joke about it, and probably still do. When was the last time that you had a credit card in your hand and you were standing in front of the laptop and you were about to book a ticket and you were like, forget about the schedule, forget about the on time, forget about the fare. What is that airline that serves shrimp on board? I'm going to fly that airline. Never happens. I think it keeps coming back to the basics of the industry. Keep a strong network. Get people from point A to point B on time with their bags safely.
I like the subtle nudge at one of the domestic carriers, which is heavily into exotic food nowadays. Chocolates, shrimp, you have it all.
Yeah, no, but the interesting thing is no reply to the
travel
answer.
mostly
Very
in
well avoided as well.
Thank God he didn't say I will take a ship and go to some international destination. So think about it.
Yeah, but anyways, guys, I think we're done with this interaction at least. Aditya, so good having you, but we should have you more often. I think this was an interesting discussion. I'm sure our viewers loved it as well. And congratulations once again from all of us.
Thank you so much. And thanks again to Economic Times as well as the jury. Thanks for your faith in us.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.